Good evening and welcome to Wisdom Walk here on Black Hole Radio and my YouTube channel, Wisdom Walk to Self-Mastery. I am your host and guide, Jojapa Maria Ensaroma. The year 2020 reminds us that we can have a clear vision for our future. 2020 is a year that leads humanity away from the old and unnecessary beliefs and structures and over to the threshold of the necessary and new beliefs and structures. February is the first of 3 fire months in this Earth year that will demand us standing in truth, vulnerability, worthiness, commitment, and adaptability. My theme for the month of February is Awakening to Your Truth. And through 4 live broadcasts and accompanying videos, I will provide you with inspirational messages to support you in the awakening process. Tonight, I will begin with Groundhog Day Inspiration. But first, for those of you who may be watching or listening in for the first time, here's a brief overview of Wisdom Walk. It is a personal development resource for your mind, body, and soul. My ministry is any pain that is not transformed will be transferred. So the initial goal of my shows is to support you in learning how to recognize and release any and all pain that may be blocking you from fulfillment in life, or what I like to also call having your happy endings in life. Every Sunday night, 5 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Eastern, I broadcast live here on Black Hole Radio. And unless I'm on hiatus or something unexpected occurs, you'll most likely find me here. Now, if for some reason you are listening to this over the internet and you cannot get access, or your access gets interrupted, things fall apart, you can always listen to this broadcast live over the phone. And here's that number. It's area code 563-999-3089. Again, 563-999-3089. I will upload a video of the broadcast that I do usually on Tuesdays. This week it's going to be a little later because I have some other commitments going on. But my YouTube channel is Wisdom Walk to Self-Mastery. You can ask questions or share comments on my Facebook page, which is Wisdom Walk Radio, or you can go to my website, www.wisdomwalktoselfmastery.com, and there will be information that gives you a email address that you can share and that you can use to send me a message. And of course, if you're watching this through YouTube, you can ask a question or leave comments in the box below. But right now, I invite you to sit or lay back and join me for an exploration of the inner landscape, where we can connect to our souls and discover the true treasure of being human. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Here we are. Here we are. It's amazing. January. Oh my God, I hope July. I'm not prophesying about July, because January was something else. Wow. And I gave all that good information starting in December, and 2 programs I broadcasted at the beginning of January talking about the celestial, cosmic, information about the shifting that was going on. And the big one, of course, being on January 12th, when Saturn and Pluto conjunct in Capricorn. And it really did its thing, at least with me and many, many people that I know. Yeah, it's like we really got kind of laid open. That's how I see it, laid open. Stuff came up from the past, and it was really hard, or some things people had been doing thinking they could, yeah, I think I can get away with this for a little bit longer. It just like all fell apart. And so, of course, all of this is to really help us, you know, again, get rid of those old beliefs and structures and open up to the new that is coming in. So I'm still a little buzzed from all of that energy that was pouring through me so very intensely. It was like a heavy weightedness was my experience of it. And it was really just this Wednesday past that I felt a shift that was going on. So if you, you know, kind of were waylaid, or, you know, things seemed very complex, or you couldn't focus, or like me, you couldn't eat, you know, sleep cycles were crazy. I slept a lot or not at all. Yeah, it was the energy, believe me, trust me. And plus we had 2 eclipses within really like a month's time. And that's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of stuff going on. So the good news is it's all about helping us to grow, to heal, to become the best version of ourselves. And so I wouldn't wish it on a dog, but it's definitely worth it. So I want to start off my show tonight, of course, honoring the ancestors. And I'm going to do that by talking about an ancestors related to Black history, since February is Black History Month. And tonight I want to talk about Jackie Robinson. Yeah. Yesterday, it was just yesterday, I was hosting someone from out of town and was able to go to the site of the Rose Bowl here in Pasadena, California. And, you know, it's interesting. I went there last year to look at how they prepare for the Rose Bowl parade with all the flowers and everything. Shaka Khan was going to be the honoree, they call it, you know, who leads the parade. So I got to see the car that she was going to be in, all the beautiful flowers and stuff. I did not stay to see the parade and went off and did something else. But so I had been there on the grounds, but I hadn't really gone over to where the actual Rose Bowl itself was. And so I did that yesterday. And lo and behold, there was a statue and a memorial to Jackie Robinson, who I found out was a football player. Not only was he a football player, he was an amazing athlete, an amazing athlete. And I'm assuming everybody knows Jackie Robinson is like number 42, or you saw the movie with Chadwick Boseman. If you didn't, do watch it. But of course, Jackie Robinson was noted for his incredible achievements in baseball. And most notably, of course, is that he broke the color line. He became the first Black man to be allowed to play in Major League Baseball here in the United States. So he also was very much a champion for civil rights and also economic rights and equity, and just amazing. And so I just wanted to share a few little more facts about him that, again, I just learned. I didn't realize, you know, what an incredible human being he was. So, again, besides, he was born on January 31st, 1919 in Cairo, Georgia. But before he becomes 1 year old, his mother moves him, her name was Molly, and his 5 siblings to Pasadena, California. Yeah, can you imagine? Back in 1919 to go all the way from Georgia to California. Yeah, right, because we're not talking about a car. We're not talking about taking a car. Wow. And when they get there, of course, residents signed petitions to kick him out of the neighborhood, but his mama didn't care. She was like, whatever, I'm going to be here because I'm not going back to Georgia, so I'm going to be here. She was clear. So that's the kind of mama that he had. And during his high school years, he excelled in 5 sports: football, basketball, track, baseball, and tennis. He was voted MVP, most valuable player, by his high school football team, where he became starting quarterback. He won a scholarship to UCLA in 1939. Yeah. And he was named an All-American in 1940. No. Yeah, he was named All-American in 1941. So All-American was, like for people that don't know football like me. But anyway, but it's a big honor that you get in college football to be named All-American. So he leaves UCLA shortly before graduating. And it says due to money issues. But if you have a scholarship, usually you can, you make it through. So I don't know if that ever really, the truth really come out about why he didn't stay until graduation. But he did leave. And shortly after, he was drafted into the Army. And he reached the rank of 2nd lieutenant before receiving an honorable discharge. But here's why the discharge. This is a really interesting story. So by this time, the Army has started their desegregation policies. So he gets on this Army bus with a white woman who was the wife of, one of the, one of the other Army buddies or something like this. Anyway, so he gets on the bus, and the bus driver tells him he has to sit in the back. And Jackie's like, no, I'm not sitting in the back. So the bus driver can't force him. He don't say nothing. But by the time they get to where they're going, the bus driver quickly gets in touch with the MBPs, the Army police, and they arrest him, take him to jail. And he has to go on this, on this trial like a court martial. And the lawyers that were there were like kind of crazy, and there was all this racist accusations against him, and it's just craziness. But anyway, it all comes out in the wash, and they realize that he hadn't done anything wrong, and so they give him an honorable discharge. Yeah, very, very interesting. So once he leaves the Army, he joins the Negro Baseball League, the Great Negro Baseball League, and that was in 1945, and by 1947 is when he gets approached by the owner of the Brooklyn Dodgers and becomes a first baseman, and again the first black man to be part of Major League Baseball. Now, he only has a 10-year career in baseball, but he is just phenomenal. And he retired in 1957 due to health issues. And he became the first African American in the Baseball Hall of Fame up in Cooperstown, New York. And this is interesting. On April 15th, 1997, 40 years, right? 50 years after he retired, his Dodgers jersey, number 42, is not only retired from the Dodgers, but it's retired throughout Major League Baseball. So that means there's no player who can ever have that number 42. It belongs to Jackie. Now, he died on October 24th, 1972, and he was only 53 years old. Yeah. And he died of a heart attack, and he did have diabetes that probably added to that. So let me just read to you what I pulled out from the internet that I think gives a nice overview too of it. It says Robinson's character, his use of nonviolence, his unquestionable talent challenged the traditional basis of segregation that had then marked many other aspects of American life. He influenced the culture of and contributed significantly to the civil rights movement. Robinson also was the first black television analyst in Major League Baseball and the first black vice president of a major American corporation, which was Chock full of Nuts, which did coffee, but they also had these cafeterias throughout New York, probably in other places too, but I remember the cafeteria in Manhattan. In the 1960s, he helped establish the Freedom National Bank, an African-American owned financial institution based in Harlem. And after his death in 1972, Robinson was posthumously awarded the Congressional Gold Medal and Presidential Medal of Freedom in recognition of his achievements on and off the field. Yeah. Jackie Robinson, phenomenal. And his wife is pretty phenomenal too. Rachel Robinson, she don't play. She created the Jackie Robinson Foundation, and she's been moving and shaking, you know, just really honoring his work, honoring his legacy. And in, I believe, April of this year, the Jackie Robinson Museum will be opening up in Greenwich Village in New York City, or close to, like around Soho, like Varick Street, I think it is. So that's between Soho and the Village. But yeah, so he'll have a museum right in New York City, which I think is really, really cool. So yeah, you know, he had an amazing life. He did have some, you know, personal stuff too that he had to deal with. He had a son who became drug addicted. It's really, really sad, who died young. And, you know, again, just all of the stress that he went through, I really think also contributed to him dying at such an early age. He was only 53. So I want to honor him by us all asking him for just an ounce of the amount of courage and tenacity and faith and hope and confidence, yeah, that he possessed to take on the challenges that God laid before him, and to take them on and to get through them bravely and lovingly. You know, he was a nice man. People like Jackie Robinson. So that's my prayer for this week, calling out to Jackie Robinson and all the ancestors like Jackie to be with us, to help us, to hold us, to guide us as we continue to open up, to learn how to be here, and how to be here in a loving way, honoring and respecting people who are different from us, not diminishing them or treating them like they're disposable. Ashe. Ashe. So let me jump into some of the elemental wisdom for this week, as well as what's going on astrologically, celestially. And we've got two kind of, I'm not so much celebratory, but, you know, honorable days that February the 2nd is representing. Take a sip of my water here. So, because January 1st fell on a Wednesday, I use Wednesday as the marking for the beginning of the elemental week. So it'll go from a Wednesday through a Tuesday. And so this Wednesday, February the 5th, we have a Earth Week. Yeah, just like last month. We also had one then. We had the first Earth Week on a 5th. On a 5-day. So here's the opportunity. The opportunity is to receive support, to know that you are worthy of receiving support, to embracing the power of self-love and honoring the energetic of the earth element, to open yourself to receive what you need to be fulfilled, nurtured, appreciated, and loved. Be self-full. Right, which is the opposite of selfish. This is a cosmic reciprocity for all that you have done to support others. You deserve it. Ask and you shall receive. So, of course, with any opportunity, we're also going to get some distractions. So here are the distractions for this week. You want to be on the lookout for. Number one is that fear of hearing no if you need to ask for help. And it can always, you know, make us feel that little tinge in our stomach, and because I don't want to hear a no, so I don't know how to ask, I don't know when to ask. But, you know, pray for the courage, take a deep breath in and ask. And if you get a no, accept it and then move on, because you will eventually get to your yes if this is right in alignment and what you need to do. The fear of being a burden is another thing to watch out for, that in receiving the help means that you're doing something wrong, you're being bad. Now, if you really, really need help and you really can't figure any other way, or it's something you know you can't do on your own, ask for help and let yourself receive it, because none of us can be here and do it on our own. No, it's just not going to happen. So again, watch out for that feeling like you're a burden. Instead, think about the fact that by allowing someone to give you help, you are actually giving them an opportunity to get a blessing. Yeah, you're giving them an opportunity to share what they have. So let go of thinking you're a burden. And then last but not least, fear of being judged as weak or as a failure. You know, we live in a culture that thinks we're all supposed to just have it all together, all tight. You shouldn't have any problems. If you do have a problem, that's because there's something wrong with you, you know. And that's crazy. As human beings, there's no way we can be perfect. And I don't have to get into the social and economic systems and issues that have, you know, created huge inequities and imbalances in terms of people's ability to really have their basic needs met in a very loving and kind way. You know, lots of people are out there suffering and struggling. So we have to let go of thinking that if I need help, there's something wrong with me. No, it really just means you need help. And again, like I said, I don't know of anybody who doesn't need that. So again, stay away from those judgments, that fear of hearing no, a fear of being a burden, or fear of being that you're weak or a failure, because none of that is true. Again, you are worthy. Receive the support. Ask and you shall receive. Allow yourself to have it. Now, next week, on the 12th, we will begin a fire week, and it'll be about being truthful, which I'm going to be talking about tonight, so that energy continues all month. Now, I just want to remind you that I have declared October as the second Earth month besides April. April, 1 month a year isn't enough. We need 2 for all that needs to happen. So October is the second Earth month. And I've also declared that the 22nd of every month is Earth Day. And so I will definitely be giving you that reminder and some suggestions for how to honor the earth and support what needs to be changing so that we take care of our home and stop abusing it and taking it for granted in the way that we have been over the last 100 years. Now, astrologically, finally, there is nothing major going on this week. Yeah, it's like, breather, breather, breather. Next Sunday, there will be a full moon in the sign of Leo. And this is one of the most happy full moons of the cycle. So this is when astrologers really like, they say it's a time for joy because it's a merging of the yin and the yang. You know, Leo, the lion, is very masculine, the moon is very feminine. So it's that balancing of the yin and the yang and the fire and the water. Just to give you a little bit of insight and preparation for it, Barbara Goldsmith, who I love, says that this full moon may bring to light the areas in your life where you need to breathe in more happiness and joy. Isn't that wonderful? Leo is childlike energy. It wants to play. It wants to have fun. It rules creativity. She says, what can you do to release the creative urges within you? How can you bring more play into your world? And Tanaz, whose website is Forever Conscious. She also has a YouTube site that I just found out about, also called Forever Conscious. And Tanaz says, Leo is a fire sign that reminds us to connect with all that lights us up. Isn't that wonderful? It reminds us to connect with our inner fire, with our inner sun. and to remember that life is for experiencing rather than controlling. Yeah, really important. And she asks, what sets your soul on fire? What fans your inner flame? What brings you a sense of purpose as you move through the experiences of life? So, again, nothing major between now and then. And of course, you can feel some of the effects of the full moon, because the moon was in like a perfect half when I saw it last night, perfectly half. So by Sunday, it'll be full, and you'll be feeling that fullness coming on, because it draws stuff out of us, it like pulls things out of us. And so you may be feeling that, but know that it's so that we can be really joyous and really happy by next Sunday, like a time to really be focusing on playfulness and joy and creativity. Now, today we also have an animal forecast, because today is Groundhog Day. And I will definitely be talking about that movie in just a minute, to talk about waking up to your truth. But I found out that Punxsutawney Phil did not see his shadow. And neither did Staten Island Chuck, where I come from. Yeah, he didn't see it either. So that means that we will have, here in the Northern Hemisphere, an early spring. And this Groundhog Day forecast has been going on for over 100 years, since 1887. Isn't that amazing? 1887. And they said they had thousands of people in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania. Like, people really came out. And it was snowing. But they really came out to get the animal forecast for the year. So, and Groundhog Day too, it's kind of midway between the winter solstice and the spring equinox. So it's we're kind of like at that midpoint, and it's good to hear that the groundhog thinks we're going to have an early spring. It's really good to hear that. Now, the other significant thing about February 2nd is called Candlemas. And this is an Orthodox religious celebration that marks the 40th day after the birth of Jesus Christ, that Mother Mary and Father Joseph and baby Jesus went to temple. Yeah, because in the Jewish religion, a woman can't get around holy things for a certain period of time when you've had a boy child. And it's a certain period of time too if you've had a girl child, and so, but the 40 days marks when it was time to be able to go to temple. And there's also part of the story that talks about when the elder there that, holds Jesus and anoints him, his name is Simeon, had been waiting for the Messiah to show up. And he prayed to God that he would experience knowing the Messiah. And when he held baby Jesus, the story is that he said, "Oh, this is it. This one he's going to set the world on fire. This is it, So, Candlemas is considered to be a day of renewal, hope, and purification. And I found this poem that I do want to take a moment to read to you, because I think it's just so right on and significant for the times that we are in. And especially after the horrible tragedy where Kobe Bryant and his daughter and 7 other people died in that helicopter crash last week. And so I think this Candlemas poem lends itself to that. So it says, "May our eyes remain open even in the face of tragedy. May we not become disheartened. May we find in the dissolution of our apathy and denial the cup of the broken heart. May we discover the gift of the fire burning in the inner chamber of our being, burning bright and bright enough to transform any poison. May we offer the power of our sorrow to service of something greater than ourselves. May our guilt not rise up to form yet another defensive wall. May the suffering purify and not paralyze us. May we endure. May sorrow bond us and not separate us. May we realize the greatness of our sorrow and not run from its touch or its flame. May clarity be our ally and wisdom our support. May our wrath be cleansing, cutting through the confusion of denial and greed. May we not be afraid to see or speak our truth. May the bleakness of the wasteland be dispelled. May the soul's journey be revealed and the true hunger fed. May we be forgiven for what we have forgotten and blessed with the remembrance of who we really are. And it's noted to come from the Terma Collective. Yeah. And Terma is like the hidden knowledge, the treasure knowledge. It comes from Tibet. And I think this is like from a collection of hidden poems or beautiful poems, the Terma Collective. But wow, I thought it was really quite significant for what is going on right now and also for what I'm about to speak with you about tonight. So here's my overview. I am going to use the film Groundhog Day to define waking up to your truth and talk about why and how that happens. And then I'm going to leave you with a personal challenge, of course. So here are the two quotes that I pulled for tonight. The first one is from Sojourner Truth. She was an abolitionist, civil rights activist, a women's rights advocate. She was born in 1797 and died in 1883, and she was amazing. And she says, "I feel safe in the midst of my enemies, for the truth is all powerful and will prevail." And then my second quote comes from the great Mr. Rogers, who was born in 1928 and he died in 2003. And he said, "Discovering the truth about ourselves is a lifetime's work, but it's worth the effort." So, waking up to your truth. Here's the truth. The truth is that you are a divine being, that you are more than just this physical and mental or cognitive or material existence. You are a spiritual being connected to divine source. You come from the stars. And you're intended for experiencing happy endings in life, to be fulfilled in life. There is a power that resides within you, and you are on an earthly journey to remember it, and it's your truth. So you are here to remember your truth, to practice your truth, and achieve the treasures of living your truth. And your truth is always fighting to come out. Always fighting to come out. Yeah. So, yes, our truth does get covered up. I think that's just a part of how the universe works, you know, because it's almost like when you think about the, you know, it's the analogy of the, how the silkworm becomes a butterfly, right? It's like the silkworm has to first get covered up, right? It's not in its true form. So it gets covered up, it gets cocooned. But while it's in that cocoon, life is forming. Something is happening. Something's fighting to get out, you know. And there comes a time when it does. It moves and it wiggles and it pushes and it comes out of its little sack. And bam, all of a sudden there it is. It's got wings. It's this beautiful butterfly. Yeah. So that's something that we see in nature, and I think it's part of our journey here in life. What can happen is that we can get stuck in thinking that our truth is that we are just the silkworm, that we're just a worm. We forget that we're on our way to being a butterfly. Yeah. And this is why I love the movie Groundhog Day so much, and I find it so inspiring, because it is a story about someone who wakes up to their truth. And if you haven't seen the movie yet, shame on you, but a quick synopsis is the lead character, whose name is Phil, is a frustrated human being in life. He's frustrated in his job. He transfers his pain onto other people because by being arrogant, by being, judgmental, he's impatient, he's egoic, bordering on narcissism. It's all about him. And he really isn't happy in life. He's very unfulfilled in life. And what happens to Phil is that he goes to Punxsutawney, because he's a weatherman, and he gets assigned to cover the groundhog forecast. And of course, being him, this is like, oh my God, I'm going to podunk somewhere to do this. Why should I have to do this? He's so arrogant. But he goes, and when he wakes up the next morning, he realizes that it's the same day repeating itself. So at first he just thinks he's crazy and goes back to sleep, and he wakes up the next morning, and guess what? It's still Groundhog Day, the whole same day repeating itself. And so he gets caught in this time loop, in this time warp. And through that process, we get to see how he responds to it, which at first is like a little adolescent. Well, I guess since I'm stuck here, I can do whatever I want, And he tries to appease his frustration and his pain in an external manner. But something happens, something shifts, and he begins to see his entrapment as an opportunity to do his inner work and to grow and to heal himself and to get with the woman that he falls in love with, to become the best version of himself. And wonderfully, he achieves that by the end of the movie. And so, it's not a spoiler thing with this, but the importance is watching how he goes about his transformation. How does that happen? And so that's what I want to talk with you about tonight is, why does Phil decide to wake up to his truth? He clearly doesn't see himself as a divine being. He doesn't see himself connected, to anybody or anything in the world, and so you have to wonder, like, what is it? What happens? Why does he wake up to it, So in the movie, basically, one thing that happens we see is that he gets bored. Yeah, he gets bored because, he's got access to all the money he wants because he knows how to rob. He knows how to rob the bank truck because there's two old men that aren't paying enough attention. So he can just go and grab a bag full of money every day, and then for the rest of the day he can use that money however he wants to, and we get to see him, just really, doing silly adolescent type things, including indiscriminate sex, it's just crazy. But, there's only so much of that you can do. And so we see him, he gets bored. And the other thing that we see happens for him is that he begins to want to act on the attraction that he has for his colleague. She's his producer. And he doesn't realize yet that he really is falling in love with her, but he's still caught up in his adolescence. So he uses his day to talk with her and find out about her. And so that he can manipulate her falling in love with him. So, trying to say that they like the same things, like to do the same things, like to read the same things. And what's interesting is in this process that he's doing this, you know, it's all about him trying to feel good. You know, he's trying to get relief externally from his misery, from his frustration, which existed before he got caught in the loop, right? He goes into that loop already being very frustrated, already not liking himself. So the falling in love piece is really important because that's kind of what happens to all of us. Because falling in love is the same as, you know, it's got the same kind of energetic as, you know, something showing up unexpected. So whether that is like getting into an accident, it's losing someone or something, you know, experiencing a death, losing a job, or even gaining a new job. But the falling in love energy is similar to that because it puts you into a whole nother space. Yeah. It takes you into something unknown. And so in that unknown space, what happens is he can't easily do what he knows to do. In other words, he begins to run out of his choices of what he knows. And so he fails miserably in trying to get this woman to love him, to sleep, you know, he's trying to sleep with her basically. But he really, underneath that, would love for this woman to love him. And so he runs out of options. And when that happens, he really goes into a depression because he tried everything. I mean, he worked overtime and nothing worked. So he goes into this depression. And that's what happens to us, you know, when we aren't yet connected with our truth. We'll try everything to feel good, to try to feel good about ourselves, about our situation, you know, and nothing works. Nothing works. So then we can easily go into a depression. Now, because he's caught in a time warp, his attempts at suicide don't work because he wakes up the next morning and bam, he's back. Yeah. So he tries every way to kill himself that he possibly can. None of it worked, just like it didn't work trying to get the woman. So he finally gets to this point, and this is to me one of the most powerful scenes in this movie, which it's what makes this movie, I really think, so special, is because he finally gets to a point where he's got no other place to go but to tell his truth. And he decides to take a chance and share it with the woman that he loves. And this is called the I'm a God scene. Because, of course, this is a comedy, so this is how he starts out. He starts out saying to her, I'm a God, because I can't kill myself. I can't get out of this time warp, you know. And because he's being truthful, he's really being truthful. He's really being vulnerable. Yeah, he's really taking a risk here. She responds to him, you know, in a loving manner. And she basically says, well, you know, this could be true. And she says, you know, I'll stick around with you today and let's see what happens, you know. And so they end up having a really, really nice day together. And of course, he goes to sleep and he wakes up and bam, it's the next day. He's back to, you know, like back to the starting gate. But what's different is he got a glimpse of what it's like when you tell your truth, when you enact on your truth, when you're being your truth, and you're supported in that. Yeah. 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 That's the turning. That definitely is the turning. Because after that, we see him start to get busy. And so that becomes the other question too, is like once you begin to wake up to your truth and the experience of it, what supports you in actually becoming it, to get to that being your true self? And so what we see him begin doing that very next day, after he's had that glimpse into what his true reality can be. We see him start to learn how to master himself and become accountable for his thoughts, his words, and his actions. So in other words, he starts to be kind. He starts to be kind to people. Every morning he would meet this friend of his, somebody he went to high school with and who sells insurance. And usually he just pushed the guy off. At one time he even punched him, But now he turns around, he starts to have a conversation with him, really listen to him, really start to care about him. The other thing we see him do is grow himself by taking on the challenge of doing and learning new things. So we see him go and learn how to play the piano. He takes that on. The other thing is that we find out that he's made a commitment to doing service for others. And it first starts with the homeless man that he usually sees on the corner and usually would ignore. But now again, he takes an interest and he decides, let me give him something to eat. So he takes him to the local cafe and he gives him a meal, and he works on trying to really keep this man alive. But the reality is that the man was supposed to die that night. So there's nothing he can do to save him. And it's a wonderful scene. I love that scene most of all because the man dies in his arms again, because, it keeps happening. But he looks up into the sky like he's looking at God and saying, okay, I'm not God. I am not a God, because clearly I can't save this man. And clearly there really is a God, And again, it just humbles him even more. But he continues in his service, and we get to see that by, and he helps this man who was choking. He does a Heimlich maneuver on this man. And also he's timed it right to be up under a tree when this little boy is falling from a tree, But it's this notion of doing service. And then we also find out that he's really learning to love himself so he can have the right relationship with the woman that he has fallen in love with. So again, this notion of waking up to our truth, we usually are going to get kicked awake. There's going to be something that happens that's unexpected. Again, like falling in love, or again, it could be the loss of someone you love. It could be the loss of a job, the loss of a home. It could be winning the lottery. Winning the lottery would be a big wake-up call. Yeah, big wake-up call. But again, it's going to be something that puts you into an unknown space. Now, waking up to your truth, know that, as was stated in the Mr. Rogers quote, it's a lifelong process. And here's why. Because I may wake up to the truth of who I was when I was in my 20s. Like, I had to become truthful about who I was, where I was, what was going on in my life, I had to be truthful about that, okay? And so then I do what I do to, like Phil, take on to love myself, grow myself, whatever. But then I do grow. I become something more. I become someone more. I get more experiences of happy endings and fulfillment, or even more painful experiences. And I get kicked to another level of I got to wake up to a new truth about myself. Yeah. Aging will do that to us. Yeah. Like you realize, oh, I'm not 30 anymore. I really can't do what I did when I was 30. And if my body needs some different support from me now than what it did when I was 30, And so know that what you knew about yourself even last year may not still be true this year. You may be ready to wake up to a new level of truth. And it's waking up, but it's about going deeper, It's going deeper. And you get to pull out, right, more of the truth of who you are. You get to remember. You get to remember more. And again, like I said, sometimes we got to get that kick. We got to get that kick into waking up into it. So just be conscious of that. Notice if you are in a new situation, a new relationship, a new job, a new location, a new home, if you got a health challenge that you're dealing with, if you're dealing with cancer, whatever's going on for you that's new, know that this is an opportunity to wake up to your truth. Yeah. To get to the next level of it. And like Phil, once you get the wake up, you begin to open up to, okay, how do I really take this and run with it? Because that's what he does after he gets that glimpse of how life can be when he's in his truth. It's like, how do I take this and run with it? And that's what you want to look for. Like, how do I find, if it is an unfortunate, a difficult, challenging thing that wakes you up, you want to ask, what's the treasure in this? How do I get to the treasure of what's going on for me? So here's a personal challenge for you. I want you to think about where in your life are you not living your truth right now? Where are you not happy? Where is it that life seems to be a struggle? Yeah. And then next, I want you to think about what would it feel like if you were living your truth? Imagine that. Imagine that. And here's your truth. I'll go back to this. And I don't care if you've got, a chronic disease, or you lost your job, or, you're going through a divorce, you won the lottery. I don't care. Whatever's going on, here's your truth, is that you are beyond your physical and mental and material existence. You are a spiritual being connected to divine source, intended to experience your happy endings and fulfillment in life. That's the truth that I'm talking about. So where in your life are you not feeling that? Are you not connected to that? And take some time when you are thinking about what it would be like to be living your truth as the divine being, right? Here to have your happy endings. I want you to really imagine what that would feel like. The feeling of it. Yeah, and of course, attached with that, you'll get some, vision of where, how, what, when, what color, what size, whatever. But really focus on the feeling. How would that feel? Yeah. And then last but not least, I want you to ask your greater order and direction, your God, for an experience of what it will feel like when you are supported living in your truth. Yeah. Very, very important. Know that this personal challenge will be listed in the box below this YouTube, and I will also post it on my Wisdom Walk Radio page on Facebook. Wow, we have come to the conclusion of this part of waking up to your truth. And to close out, I want to shout out to my wonderful engineer, Miss Yvette Parker, and to the entire Black Hole Radio Be Well family. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I could not be doing my spiritual spills without your support. I also want to shout out to all my regular listeners out there, especially Ms. Sarah, who continues to inspire me to live life to the fullest and to walk my truth. And to all of those who have wisdom walked with me, you know who you are. To my family, my spiritual kin, my transformational leadership colleagues, my medicine sisters and brothers all around the world, and those who may be listening in for the first time. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I couldn't do this without you and your support. Now, next week, I will continue the theme of awakening to your truth by sharing inspiration from Black history. Do more Black history. Again, my Facebook page is Wisdom Walk Radio, my YouTube channel, The Wisdom Walk to Self-Mastery. And last but not least, I want to thank My God, my ancestors, my spirit guides, my loving entities, everything that walks with me, keeps my head to the sky, my feet to the ground, and my heart open to do this important work with and for all of you. Have a fantastic, astrologically clear Earth Week. Be grounded, be present, and most importantly, please remember, you are not disposable. You are divine. Good night now.